Marcus Chen stepped off the transport shuttle onto the dusty surface of Kepler 4422c, his worn boots crunching against the crystalline sand that covered most of this forgotten world. The air recycler on his environmental suit hummed softly as it processed the thin atmosphere, mixing it with oxygen from his tanks. Around him, the salvage crew was already unloading equipment, their voices crackling through the comm channels as they discussed the day's work. "Another dead civilization," muttered Vex, a blue-skinned Altarian who served as the team's xenoarchaeologist. "Third one this month. Sometimes I wonder if the galaxy is just a graveyard waiting to happen." Marcus adjusted his scanner and shrugged. "That's why we're here. Someone has to catalog what's left before the scavengers strip everything clean." He looked across the alien landscape, where massive stone structures jutted from the sand, like the bones of some ancient giant. The civilization that built this place had been gone for over 10,000 years, according to the initial surveys. The team spread out across the ruins, each member focusing on their specialty. Marcus was officially listed as a cultural artifact specialist, though most people just called him a treasure hunter with a degree. He didn't mind the title. In his 15 years of exploring dead worlds, he'd found enough genuine archaeological treasures to earn respect from even the most academic circles. His scanner began picking up unusual energy signatures from a structure near the center of the ruins. The readings were unlike anything in the standard databases, old, but not quite dead. Something down there was still active after all these millennia. "I'm getting strange readings from the central complex," Marcus reported over the comm. "Gonna check it out." "Be careful down there," replied Captain Santos, the team leader. "The structural scans show some instability in that area." Marcus made his way through the rubble-strewn streets of the ancient city. The architecture was unlike anything he'd seen before. Organic curves mixed with crystalline geometries, as if the builders had grown their structures rather than constructed them. His scanner led him to a building that looked like a massive flower, made of black stone, its petals reaching toward the alien sky. The entrance was sealed with a material his scanner couldn't identify. Marcus ran his hands along the smooth surface, looking for some kind of mechanism. As his palm pressed against a particular section, the material suddenly became translucent, then dissolved completely. "Well, that's new," he muttered, stepping through the opening. Inside, bioluminescent veins ran along the walls, casting an eerie blue-green light throughout the corridor. The energy readings on his scanner were getting stronger with each step. Whatever was causing them lay deeper in the structure. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows high above. In the center stood a series of crystalline pillars, each one containing what looked like a stasis pod. Most of the pods were dark and empty, but one still glowed with that same blue-green light. Marcus approached the active pod carefully. Inside, he could make out a massive shape, easily 3 times the size of a human. The creature was unlike anything in the galactic databases, reptilian, but with features that seemed almost insectoid. 6 powerful legs ended in claws that looked like they could tear through starship hull plating. Its head was elongated, with multiple rows of teeth visible even through the stasis field. Most disturbing of all were the dozens of scars that criss-caged its dark hide, evidence of countless battles. "My God," Marcus whispered. "What are you?" As if responding to his voice, the creature's eyes snapped open. They were an intense golden color, and they fixed directly on Marcus with an intelligence that made his breath catch. The scanner in his hand was going crazy, detecting massive spikes in neural activity from within the pod. The stasis field began to flicker and fail. Warning lights that hadn't activated in 10,000 years suddenly blazed to life around the chamber. Marcus stumbled backward as the pod began to open with a hiss of escaping gases. "Marcus, what's your status?" Captain Santos's voice crackled through the comm. "We're detecting major power fluctuations from your location," I've got a situation here, Marcus replied, never taking his eyes off the opening pod. One of the stasis chambers is activating. The creature emerged slowly, its massive form unfolding as it stepped out of the pod. It stood nearly 4 meters tall, its scarred hide glistening in the blue light. For a moment, it simply stared at Marcus, those golden eyes seeming to peer right through him. Then it spoke. The words came not as sound, but as direct neural transmission. Marcus felt the alien thoughts touch his mind, and somehow, impossibly, he understood. 10,000 years of darkness, 10,000 years of dreams filled with fire and death, and now, a human awakens me. You can understand me? Marcus asked aloud. Your species is known to me, though I have not seen one of your kind in the flesh. The others spoke of humans before the Great Sleep. They said your people were different. The others? My masters, the Zephyrians. They created me to be their ultimate weapon, their perfect soldier. I was designed to feel no mercy, no compassion, only the desire to kill and conquer. But in their final hour, facing extinction from the plague they themselves unleashed, they chose to preserve me rather than their own kind. The creature took a step closer, and Marcus forced himself to stand his ground despite every instinct screaming at him to run. This close, he could see the intelligence burning in those alien eyes, but also something else. Loneliness that had festered for 10 millennia. I am called Vorthak. I am the last of the Devourer-class battle forms. I was created to be a monster, and for 300 years of war, that is exactly what I was. Why are you telling me this? Marcus asked. Because you are the first being to look upon me without immediate hatred or fear. Even my creators feared what they had made. But you look at me with curiosity, perhaps even compassion. You've been alone for 10,000 years, Marcus said softly. I can't imagine what that must have been like. Something changed in the creature's expression, a subtle softening around the eyes that made it seem almost vulnerable despite its terrifying appearance. The Zephyrians programmed me with their memories, their culture, their hopes for the future. I carry within me the last remnants of their civilization, but I was never meant to be alone. I was created to serve, to protect, to have purpose. Instead, I have had nothing but endless dreams and the weight of a dead empire. Marcus felt his heart go out to this ancient being. He'd spent years studying extinct civilizations, but he'd never had the chance to actually speak with someone who had witnessed their final moments. What will you do now? He asked. I do not know. The galaxy has moved on without the Zephyrians. I am a relic of a forgotten war, a weapon with no enemy to fight. Perhaps it would be better if I returned to the darkness. No, Marcus said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. You're not just a weapon. You're the last keeper of your people's memory. That makes you invaluable. Valuable to whom? Who would want a monster as their companion? Marcus thought about his own life. Constantly moving from one dead world to another, surrounded by colleagues but never really connecting with anyone. He understood loneliness better than most. I would, he said simply. The creature, Vorthak, stared at him in what Marcus could only describe as shock. You would accept me, knowing what I was created to be? You were created to be a weapon, but that doesn't mean that's all you are. I've studied dozens of extinct species, and the one thing they all had in common was the ability to change, to become more than what they started as. Maybe it's time for you to discover what you can become. And if I am still the monster they made me to be? Then we'll figure it out together, Marcus replied. I'm not exactly normal myself. Most humans think I'm crazy for spending my life digging through dead civilizations. Maybe we're both a little broken. For the first time since awakening, Vorthak's massive jaws curved into what might have been a smile. "You truly mean this? You would take me with you, despite what your people might say?" Marcus nodded. "My people have a saying, family is who you choose to love. I think you've been alone long enough." The ancient war beast lowered its great head in what Marcus recognized as a bow of gratitude. "Then I pledge my service to you, Marcus Chen, not as the weapon I was created to be, but as the companion I choose to become." "Just Marcus," he said, reaching out to touch the creature's scarred snout. "We're family now." As they made their way back through the ruins toward the shuttle, Marcus couldn't help but smile. The other team members were going to have some very strong opinions about his new companion. Captain Santos would probably have a heart attack. The Galactic Council would definitely want to classify Vorthak as a dangerous weapon and lock him away for study. But Marcus had made his decision. For the first time in years, he felt like he had a real purpose beyond just cataloging the past. He was going to help this ancient being find a new future. "Marcus," Vorthak's voice touched his mind as they walked. "What will we do when the others see me? They will not understand as you do." "We'll deal with that when it happens," Marcus replied. "But I promise you this, I won't let anyone separate us. You've waited 10,000 years for a chance at a new life. I'm going to make sure you get it." Behind them, the ancient city began to darken as the bioluminescent systems finally shut down completely, their purpose fulfilled. Ahead lay uncertainty, but for the first time in either of their lives, neither human nor ancient war beast faced that uncertainty alone. The real challenge would be convincing the rest of the galaxy that monsters could choose to become something more. The salvage team's reaction was exactly what Marcus had expected. Captain Santos took one look at Vorthak emerging from the ruins and immediately drew her plasma pistol. The rest of the crew scattered for cover, their voices erupting in panic over the comm channels. "Chen, get away from that thing!" Santos shouted, her weapon trained on the massive creature. "Now!" "It's okay," Marcus called back, positioning himself between Vorthak and the armed captain. "He's not hostile." "Not hostile?" Vex's voice cracked with disbelief from behind a fallen stone pillar. "That's a Zephyrian devourer. I've seen the historical records. Those things wiped out entire star systems." "They are correct to fear me." Vorthak's voice resonated in Marcus's mind. Perhaps this was a mistake. "No," Marcus said firmly, speaking both aloud and thinking his response. "We agreed we'd figure this out together." Captain Santos kept her weapon raised, but Marcus could see uncertainty in her eyes. "Chen, that creature is a weapon of mass destruction. We have protocols for this kind of discovery. It needs to be contained and studied." "He's not an it," Marcus said, emphasizing the pronoun. "His name is Vorthak, and he's the last survivor of his species. He's choosing to come with me." "Choosing?" Dr. Kellens, the team's biologist, emerged from cover with his scanner in hand. "The readouts are off the charts. The neural activity patterns suggest intelligence levels comparable to our own, maybe higher." "Because he is intelligent," Marcus explained. "He can communicate telepathically. He's been alone for 10,000 years. Santos slowly lowered her weapon, though she kept it ready. "This is way above our clearance level. We need to contact the Council immediately." "The Council will want to lock him up," Marcus protested. "Study him like a lab specimen. He's not some artifact to be cataloged. He's a sentient being who deserves better than that." "Marcus," Vorthak's mental voice was gentle but resigned. "Perhaps it would be better if I submitted to their authority. I am what I am. No amount of good intentions can change my fundamental nature." Marcus turned to face the ancient war beast, looking up into those golden eyes that had seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations. "Your fundamental nature is what you choose it to be. The Zephyrians may have created your body, but your mind, your choices, those are yours alone." The standoff continued for several tense minutes before Santos finally made her decision. "All right, Chen, but we do this by the book. The creature comes aboard our ship, but in restraints. When we reach the nearest council station, they decide what happens next." "I will comply," Vorthak told Marcus. "If it means remaining with you a little longer, I will accept their bonds." The journey to Council Station Meridian took 3 standard days. Marcus spent most of that time in the cargo hold where Vorthak was being kept, much to the discomfort of his crewmates. The restraints were more symbolic than practical. Energy shackles designed for human-sized beings could hardly contain a creature of Vorthak's size and strength. But the ancient being remained perfectly still, accepting the indignity with a patience born of millennia. During those 3 days, Marcus learned more about Vorthak's past than any xenoarchaeologist had ever dreamed possible. The creature shared memories that spanned centuries, the glory days of the Zephyrian Empire, the wars that consumed entire sectors of space, and finally the plague that brought it all to an end. "We were not always conquerors," Vorthak explained during one of their conversations. The early Zephyrians were explorers, scientists, artists. They reached for the stars with curiosity, not conquest. But power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. When they created beings like me, they had already lost their way. "But you remember who they were before," Marcus said. "You carry their better nature inside you." "Perhaps. Or perhaps I simply tell myself this to make the guilt bearable. I have destroyed worlds, Marcus. I have ended civilizations. How does one atone for such things?" "By choosing to be better than what you were created to be," Marcus replied. "By protecting instead of destroying." On the 3rd day, they arrived at Council Station Meridian. The massive orbital platform served as a hub for the Galactic Council's operations in this sector. Marcus had been here before during his academic career, but never under circumstances like these. The docking procedures took longer than usual. Station security insisted on a full quarantine protocol before allowing Vorthak to disembark. Word had apparently gotten ahead of them. The dock was swarming with council officials, xenobiologists, and military personnel. "Chen," Captain Santos said as they prepared to leave the ship, "I want you to know that I've filed my report recommending that the creature be treated as a refugee rather than a weapon, for what it's worth." Marcus was surprised by the gesture. "Thank you, Captain. That means a lot." The transfer to the station was a media circus. News drones buzzed around them as Vorthak was escorted through the corridors by a full squad of Council Marines. The ancient war beast endured the attention with dignity, his massive form moving with surprising grace despite the restraints. They were taken to a high-security facility in the station's core, where Marcus was separated from Vorthak for the first time since they'd left Kepler 442c. The holding cell was large enough to accommodate the creature's size, but it was still a cell. "I'll be back," Marcus promised as the energy barrier activated. "Whatever happens, I'm not abandoning you." "I know, my friend. Your loyalty honors me more than you can know." The next several hours were a blur of interviews, interrogations, and bureaucratic proceedings. Marcus found himself facing a panel of council officials, military leaders, and scientists, all demanding answers about the creature he'd brought back from the dead world. "Dr. Chen," said Counselor Thane, a severe-looking woman with cybernetic implants along her scalp, "you understand the gravity of this situation. You've brought what amounts to a living weapon into council space without proper authorization." "I brought a sentient being seeking asylum," Marcus countered. "Vorthak is the last survivor of an extinct species. He deserves protection, not imprisonment." Admiral Korsk, a veteran military officer with scars across his blue-scaled face, leaned forward aggressively. That being is responsible for the destruction of dozens of worlds. The historical records are clear about what devourers are capable of. The historical records show what he was forced to do 10,000 years ago, Marcus replied. People can change. Civilizations can change. Even artificial beings can choose to become more than their programming. Can they? Dr. Yilan, the station's chief xenopsychologist, spoke up. Our initial scans suggest that the creature's neural pathways are largely unchanged from its original design. It's still fundamentally a weapon, despite any claims of peaceful intentions. Marcus felt his patience wearing thin. Have any of you actually tried talking to him? He's incredibly intelligent, deeply philosophical, and genuinely remorseful about his past. He's choosing to be here, choosing to cooperate with your procedures. Or choosing to lull us into a false sense of security, Admiral Korsk snapped. These devourer units were designed for psychological warfare as much as physical destruction. The debate continued for hours, with Marcus defending Vorthak against increasingly hostile questions. Finally, Counselor Thane called for a recess to allow the panel to deliberate. Marcus was escorted to a waiting area where he found an unexpected ally, Dr. Kellens from the salvage team. I've been analyzing the data from our encounter, the biologist said quietly. The neural patterns I recorded show genuine emotional responses. Fear, loneliness, hope. These aren't things that can be programmed or faked. Whatever that creature was originally designed to be, he's become something more. Will you testify to that? I already have. For all the good it's doing. The military faction wants him destroyed as a threat, the science division wants him vivisected for study, and the diplomatic corps wants him locked away indefinitely. Marcus slumped in his chair. There has to be something I can do. Actually, there might be, Dr. Kellens said. I've been looking into council precedents for cases like this. There's a provision in the Sentient Rights Charter that allows for personal custody in cases involving the last surviving member of a species. It's rarely used, but it exists. What would that involve? You'd have to take full responsibility for his actions. Any damage he causes, any laws he breaks, it all falls on you. You'd essentially be his legal guardian. Marcus didn't hesitate. Where do I sign? The hearing resumed 3 hours later. When Counselor Thane announced that they had reached a decision, Marcus held his breath. The Council has determined that the creature known as Vorthak represents a significant security risk, she began. However, we also acknowledge the unique circumstances of his discovery and the potential scientific value of preserving the last remnant of Zephyrian civilization. Marcus felt his heart sink, but Thane continued. Dr. Chen, you have petitioned for personal custody under the Sentient Rights Charter. This is highly irregular, but given the precedent for protecting extinct species, the Council is willing to consider it under strict conditions. What conditions? Marcus asked. Admiral Korsk stood up. First, you and the creature will be restricted to designated areas of Council space. No access to military installations or sensitive worlds. Second, you will submit to regular psychological evaluations to ensure the creature isn't exerting any form of mental influence. Third, any sign of aggressive behavior results in immediate termination of the arrangement. The conditions were harsh, but they were better than the alternatives. I accept, Marcus said immediately. Then it's decided, Counselor Thane announced. Dr. Chen, the creature is your responsibility now. Try not to let it end the galaxy. When Marcus was finally reunited with Vorthak in the holding cell, the ancient being's relief was palpable. You did this for me? You accepted responsibility for my actions? Of course I did. We're family, remember? The others will not understand. They will see you as a fool or a traitor for protecting a monster. Let them, Marcus said firmly. I know what you really are. That's all that matters. And what am I, in your eyes? Marcus thought about the question seriously before answering. You're someone who's been given a second chance to choose who they want to be. Someone who deserves that chance, no matter what they've done in the past. I will not disappoint you, Marcus. I swear this on the memory of my creators and the souls of all those I have wronged. As they left Council Station Meridian together, Marcus knew their real journey was just beginning. They had faced down the bureaucracy and won a chance at freedom, but now came the harder task, proving to the galaxy that redemption was possible, even for those who had fallen the furthest. The other passengers on their transport ship gave them a wide berth, whispers following in their wake. Marcus didn't care. He had found something rarer than any archaeological treasure, a friend who understood what it meant to be alone in the universe. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. 6 months after leaving Council Station Meridian, Marcus and Vorthak had settled into an unusual routine on the frontier research vessel, Wandering Scholar. Captain Elena Vasquez had been one of the few ship commanders willing to take them on, partly out of scientific curiosity, and partly because her crew specialized in dangerous archaeological expeditions that could benefit from Vorthak's unique abilities. The ancient war beast had proven surprisingly useful in their work. His knowledge of extinct civilizations was encyclopedic, and his physical capabilities made him invaluable when exploring unstable ruins or hostile environments. More importantly, the crew had gradually come to accept him as more than just a weapon. Vorthak, could you give me a hand with this? Sarah Kim, the ship's lead archaeologist, called out as she struggled with a massive stone tablet they'd discovered on Zerion 4. Of course, Dr. Kim, Vorthak replied, carefully lifting the ancient artifact with 2 of his powerful arms while supporting it with a third. His telepathic voice had become familiar to the crew over the months, though some still found it unsettling. Thanks. I still can't get over how gentle you can be with delicate items, she said, directing him to place the tablet in a preservation field. You'd think hands that size would be clumsy. The Zephyrians designed me for precision as well as destruction. I was meant to be a surgeon as much as a soldier. Sometimes the most effective way to eliminate an enemy is to carefully remove a single component rather than obliterate everything. Marcus looked up from his own work cataloging artifacts. It still amazed him how matter-of-factly Vorthak could discuss his original programming. The creature had made remarkable progress in separating his past from his present, but Marcus knew the guilt still weighed heavily on him. Their peaceful routine was interrupted when Captain Vasquez's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. All hands to stations. We're receiving a distress call from the Serenity, one of the colony ships headed for the Kepler 438 system. Their engines have failed and they're drifting toward a black hole. Marcus and Vorthak quickly made their way to the bridge, where the tactical display showed the desperate situation. The colony ship carried over 3,000 civilians, including families who had sold everything for the chance to start new lives on a distant world. How long do they have? Marcus asked. Maybe 18 hours before they cross the event horizon, Captain Vasquez replied grimly. The nearest Council rescue vessel is 2 days away. What about our ship? Dr. Kim asked. Can we help? The Wandering Scholar doesn't have the power to tow something that massive, the captain explained. We'd need a ship 10 times our size or... She trailed off, her eyes falling on Vorthak. You wish to know if I could help, Vorthak said, picking up on her thoughts. What do you have in mind? The Serenity's engine core is intact, but their quantum regulators have failed. Someone would need to go aboard and manually realign the containment field generators. The problem is, it's a suicide mission. The radiation levels in the engine compartment would kill any normal being in minutes. But not me, Vorthak said quietly. My creators designed me to operate in the most hostile environments imaginable. Radiation that would be lethal to you would barely affect me. Absolutely not, Marcus said immediately. It's too dangerous. Marcus, my friend, this is exactly the kind of situation where my abilities could save lives instead of taking them. 3,000 people, including children, will die if we do nothing. The Serenity won't let us dock, Lieutenant Torres pointed out from the navigation station. The moment their sensors identify a devourer aboard our ship, they'll refuse any assistance. The panic alone could cause a riot. Captain Vasquez nodded grimly. That's the other problem. We'd have to find a way to get Vorthak aboard without revealing what he is. I have been thinking about this issue for some time, Vorthak said. My body was designed to be adaptable. I believe I could compress my form enough to fit inside a standard EVA suit, at least temporarily. That's insane, Dr. Kim protested. The stress on your internal systems would be considerable but not fatal. I have endured far worse in my past. Marcus grabbed Vorthak's armored arm. We'll find another way. I won't risk losing you. Marcus, in the 6 months we have been together, you have shown me what it means to live rather than merely exist. You have given me purpose beyond destruction. Now let me use that purpose to save lives. The debate continued for precious minutes, while the Serenity continued its inexorable drift toward destruction. Finally, Captain Vasquez made the decision for them. We're going to try it. Vorthak, start preparing for compression. Marcus, you'll go with him as his technical support. The rest of us will work on getting the Serenity to accept our assistance. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Vorthak's compression process was disturbing to watch, the ancient war beast slowly folding his massive form into a configuration that could barely fit into the largest EVA suit they had aboard. The strain was obvious, but he endured it without complaint. The suit's life support systems are registering massive stress, Vorthak reported as they prepared to launch in the shuttle. I estimate I can maintain this configuration for perhaps 4 hours before risking permanent damage. Then we'd better work fast, Marcus replied, checking his own equipment one final time. The Serenity's captain, a gruff, older man named Torres, was reluctant to accept help from strangers, but desperation overcame his suspicion. The colony ship's corridors were crowded with frightened families, their belongings packed into whatever containers they could find. The engine compartment is through here, Chief Engineer Patel explained, leading them through increasingly radiation-scarred passages. We've lost 3 people trying to reach the quantum regulators. The containment field is fluctuating wildly. I can feel the instability from here, Vorthak said privately to Marcus. The quantum field is on the verge of complete collapse. If that happens, the resulting explosion will destroy the ship instantly. They reached the sealed blast doors leading to the engine compartment. The radiation warnings were flashing red, and Marcus's suit immediately began registering dangerous levels of exposure. I can't go in there with you, Marcus said reluctantly. The radiation would kill me in minutes. I know. You will have to guide me from here using the internal sensors. But what if something goes wrong? What if the compression suit fails? Then I will die as I should have lived, protecting the innocent rather than destroying them. It would be a worthy end. Don't talk like that. You're coming back. We both are. Vorthak placed one massive gauntleted hand on Marcus's shoulder. If I do not return, know that these 6 months with you have been the greatest gift of my existence. You taught me that redemption is possible, even for monsters. Before Marcus could respond, Vorthak was through the blast doors and into the radiation-soaked engine compartment. Marcus watched helplessly on the monitors as his friend made his way through the maze of quantum field generators, his compressed form moving with practiced efficiency despite the hostile environment. First regulator is offline, Marcus reported, watching the sensor readings. You need to reroute the primary conduit through the secondary manifold. Understood. The radiation levels here are significant, even for me. Marcus could hear the strain in Vorthak's mental voice as he worked. The compression suit was beginning to fail. its systems overwhelmed by the dual stress of maintaining the creature's altered form and protecting him from the lethal radiation. "Second regulator online," Marcus announced. "Just 2 more to go." "Marcus, I need you to know something. When I was young, before the wars began, the Zephyrians taught me about the concept of friendship. I thought it was a weakness, an inefficiency in their design. I was wrong. The bond between us has made me stronger than I ever was as merely a weapon." "Save the speeches for when you get out of there," Marcus said, though his voice was thick with emotion. "Third regulator is coming online now." The final regulator was the most damaged, its quantum field generators partially melted by radiation exposure. Vorthak had to physically rebuild the connections while the containment field fluctuated dangerously around him. "Warning," the ship's computer announced throughout the Serenity. "Engine containment field at 30% stability. Recommend immediate evacuation." "Marcus, if the field collapses while I am working on it—" "It won't," Marcus said firmly. "You've got this, just like you've had everything else we've faced together." "I can see the damage now. The quantum matrix is more degraded than we thought. I will need to use my body's own bioelectrical field to stabilize it while I make the repairs." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "That could kill you." "Perhaps. But without it, everyone on this ship will certainly die." On the monitor, Marcus watched as Vorthak removed his damaged gloves and placed his bare hands directly on the quantum field generator. The creature's body began to glow with bioelectrical energy, his natural systems interfacing directly with the alien technology. The containment field immediately began to stabilize, but Marcus could see the cost. Vorthak's compressed form was starting to fail catastrophically as his body diverted energy to maintain the quantum matrix. "Field stability at 50% and rising," Marcus reported, "but you need to get out of there now." "Not yet. The field must reach at least 70% before it will be stable enough to restart the engines." Minutes passed like hours as Vorthak held the containment field together through sheer willpower and bioelectrical energy. His compression suit was now completely failed, revealing his true form partially expanded within the engine compartment. Marcus could see his friend's golden eyes blazing with effort and determination. 70%! Marcus shouted. "You did it! Now get out of there!" But Vorthak didn't move. On the monitor, Marcus could see the ancient war beast swaying on his feet, his energy completely depleted. "Marcus, I cannot... The compression. I expanded too much. I am trapped." "No," Marcus whispered. Then louder, "No, there has to be a way." "The engines, are they online?" Marcus checked the displays through his tears. "Yes, the Serenity can escape the black hole." Then, it was worth it. 3,000 lives, for one monster. Fair trade. "You're not a monster!" Marcus shouted, pounding on the blast door controls. "You never were! You're my friend, my family!" "And you are mine. Tell the galaxy that monsters can choose to become heroes." The radiation alarms suddenly stopped blaring. On the monitor, Marcus saw emergency teams rushing into the engine compartment with portable containment fields and heavy-duty medical equipment. Chief Engineer Patel was shouting orders as they worked to extract Vorthak from the quantum field generator. "He's alive!" Patel reported over the comm. "Barely, but alive! We're getting him to the medical bay now!" The next several hours were a blur of medical procedures and tense waiting. The Serenity's doctors, assisted by the crew of the Wandering Scholar, worked frantically to stabilize Vorthak's condition. The radiation exposure had been massive, even by his standards, and his forced compression had damaged several internal systems. Marcus never left his friend's side, watching the monitors and holding one massive clawed hand in both of his own. Captain Torres and several other senior officers from the Serenity came to pay their respects, their hostility replaced by genuine gratitude. "I owe you both an apology," Captain Torres said quietly. "When I first learned what he was, I wanted him off my ship immediately. But what he did today? No weapon would have made that choice. No monster would have sacrificed itself for strangers." On the third day, Vorthak's eyes finally opened. His mental voice was weak, but unmistakably relieved. "The families, are they safe?" "All 3,000 of them," Marcus said, squeezing his friend's hand. "Including the children. You saved them all." "Good. That is, good. The doctors say you'll make a full recovery. It's going to take time, but you're going to be fine." "Marcus, when I was in the engine compartment, facing what I thought was death, I finally understood something. I am no longer the weapon the Zephyrians created. I am not even the monster I once was. I am simply Vorthak, friend to Marcus Chen, protector of the innocent. It is enough." Marcus smiled through his tears. "It's more than enough. It's everything." As news of the Serenity rescue spread throughout the galaxy, public opinion about Vorthak began to shift dramatically. The footage of the ancient war beast sacrificing himself to save 3,000 civilians became the most watched vid in Council space. Suddenly, the creature that had once been seen as a threat was being hailed as a hero. Requests for interviews came flooding in from across the galaxy. Offers of citizenship, honorary degrees, even movie deals. Vorthak politely declined them all, preferring to continue his quiet work with the archaeological team. "Fame is not redemption," he explained to Marcus one evening as they watched the stars through the observation deck of the Wandering Scholar. "Actions are redemption. Each life saved, each discovery that honors the dead, each day spent choosing to be better than what I was created to be." "The galaxy sees you differently now," Marcus pointed out. "You've proven that anyone can change." "Perhaps. But I do not do this for the galaxy's approval. I do it because you taught me that the past does not have to define the future. You showed me that even monsters can find family." Marcus leaned back against his friend's warm flank, watching the stars wheel overhead. "So what do you want to do now?" "Continue our work. There are still lost civilizations to discover, still stories to preserve, and somewhere out there might be others like me, weapons who dream of becoming something more. If our story can give them hope, then every challenge we faced was worth it," Marcus finished. They sat in comfortable silence, an unlikely pair who had found in each other exactly what they had been missing. The human archaeologist who had spent his life studying the dead, and the ancient weapon who had learned to choose life over death. Together they had proven that redemption was possible for anyone willing to fight for it. In the distance, the stars of the frontier called to them with the promise of new discoveries and new chances to prove that the bonds of chosen family could overcome any obstacle the universe might place in their path.